Hey!
Hi!
This,
How's it going? Hey, I didn't see you there.
This is we are Bad Content, and this is Psych Papers, a podcast where we review and talk about a different psychological study each episode. And I am currently in the process of getting my PhD in psychology.
You're Chris.
And I am Chris.
Cole. Yeah.
And Joseph right here is my friend.
I'm his friend, yes.
Yes.
Soon Chris will be Dr. Christopher Cole, and I will continue still being his friend Joseph.
That's a title that people can work years to gain and still never get.
The great thing about being like close friends with you is that I do flex on my other friends, saying that I have a friend who has a PhD by association.
Do you really? How does that even come up?
I don't know, but it somehow comes up, and I put it in the conversation, and I own it, and I own your PhD that I don't really contribute to.
Just to give your like bullshit claim some more credibility.
Yeah, like my friend has a PhD, so this is what he told me.
So I really think we should pick this design this design out that I made.
But this is not about design. This is about psychology.
This is about psychology.
That's right.
And today we have an interesting study. This is one of the lesser known studies, but still very interesting. When we're eating, how do we figure out when we're full? You would think it's a fairly simple process, right? You would just intuitively kind of listen to your stomach, and you would just know when you feel full, right?
Usually,
turns out the process is a little more complicated than that.
Usually, I feel full when I start feeling bad. I think that's. I don't know if that's what you're going to study, but when I start feeling sorry for myself, that's how I know I've had enough.
Yeah. when depression symptoms start kicking in, that's when I end my meal.
When I start doing this, I'm just like, I have to put this fork down. I gotta start wiping tears from my eyes.
When I start losing purpose in life, I know the meal's over. All right. So surprisingly, it's actually pretty difficult to continuously monitor one's level of satiation or how full you feel, right? So it turns out people use a lot of visual cues, such as how much is left on a plate or the number of like empty chip bags that they've eaten through.
Oh no.
To figure out how full you are.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit. I don't like that example. There's nothing worse of feeling than you seeing like a fucking bag of like Flamin' Hot Doritos, an empty one, and another bag of just regular Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Oh, that doesn't make you feel good. Yeah,
you just see like the carcasses of just like a snack binge, and you're just like, oh, what have I done? People use visual cues. This can lead people to underestimate as well as overestimating how much food you've consumed. For example, this is kind of funny. People consistently underestimate and overconsume the amount of liquid they pour into a short, wide drinking glass compared to a tall, narrow glass. And both of these glasses hold the same volume of fluid. But when you pour liquid into a short, wide glass, people think it's more liquid, and so they overestimate how much liquid they're consuming. And this is known as a concept called conservation in developmental psych. Kids develop this at a young age, where you can take liquid in one glass and pour it into a differently shaped glass, and the kid can be like, oh, now that it's in the taller glass, there's more liquid in there, even though they just watched you pour the same liquid from one glass into another. So another example is that people can underestimate and overconsume the amount of food on a large plate. So in other words, you put the same amount of food on a large plate, and people won't feel as full compared to when you put the same amount of food on a small plate. Because when you see... When there's a large plate and just a small amount of food in the middle, that makes the food look smaller. So it makes you feel like you're consuming less food. So this is all just background on kind of how a person's eyes might influence how much they consume, making them less influenced by their own physiological cues of satiation. So how full you feel is often more influenced by the amount of food you believe you've consumed and less with how much you've actually consumed. well-known study, sort of well-known. I don't know. I haven't heard about it in classes. I forget where I actually heard about it. It explored this phenomenon, and it used a bottomless soup bowl, an actual bottomless soup bowl, conducted by Brian Wansink, James Painter, and Jill North at Cornell University. Participants were invited in a study where they had to eat a soup-only lunch and then complete a questionnaire, and they got a free lunch, but it was just a soup-only lunch, right?
Sorry, Chris. Why are all of these like studies like just like prank setups? It just feels like
with hidden cameras everywhere.
It feels like
Ashton Kutcher in the kitchen.
Every time you describe it, I'm just imagining some like really like CCTV like like camera from the side, just like watching people.
A group of guys in the back being like, oh, okay, now, spill the soup on her blouse.
All right, so sorry. So people were invited for a free meal.
Yep, a soup-only lunch, and they ate the soup in groups of four participants. Since it's been studied that people tend to eat more with friends and they eat less with strangers, so they wanted to simulate kind of a friendly lunch. Participants were told that it was a new recipe of tomato soup, and they were told to enjoy as much soup as they wanted, only for 20 minutes. Half of the participants ate the soup out of a self-refilling bowl, and half ate out of a normal bowl. And now the self-refilling bowl, this bowl had a tube on the underside of it. So it was, all the bowls were like kind of bolted to the table, right?
Okay, sorry. This sounds like a Looney Tunes cartoon now. Go ahead.
It does. And the self-refilling bowl had a tube on the bottom side of it that would keep the soup at a constant level. So if you took a spoonful of it, it would fill up a spoonful amount. So it would always stay at like the same level. And it refilled slowly enough that it was kind of hard to tell that it was refilling. Now, the regular bowl, to ensure that they ate as much soup as they wanted, their bowls were refilled by a server once their bowl got to a quarter full, right? So they come in and they're like, hey, eat as much tomato soup as you want. Half of them are getting refills for each bowl they have from a server. So they kind of have an idea. They have a visual cue, right, of how much soup they're eating. They're like, oh, this server has refilled it 3 times. The people without the visual cues are eating from the self-refilling bowl. They have no idea how much soup they've eaten.
Wait, so I just going to paint the picture. So I'm with my group of friends, my homies, my squad, as I usually call them, and we're just chatting, talking about girls, and like I'm trying to eat this like delicious soup, and I don't realize that this soup keeps refilling itself as I'm eating it. Are you kidding me? Like, am I not realizing that this thing is like refilling itself as I'm eating it?
A lot of them indicated that that it seems like the bowl wasn't going down.
Okay. All right.
Not that even if they did know it was a self-refilling bowl, that wouldn't influence the study. Okay. I don't think that would be a confounding variable.
Okay.
So those with the self-refilling bowls ate more soup compared to those with the regular bowls, an average of 6 ounces more, or 113 calories, or 73% more. However, both groups thought that they had ate the same amount, and both groups reported feeling equally satiated. So those were their perceptions. The reality was that the people in the self-refilling bowl, they ate significantly more. So it looks like people used the fill level of soup in the bowl as an indication of how much they would consume. They conducted a pilot study in which 61% strongly agreed with the statement, I usually eat until I reach the bottom of the bowl. So again, people are using visual cues. They're not relying on, their stomach sending signals of fullness to them. They're using visual cues. So how do we figure out when we're full? It's not simply a matter of monitoring your own body. Being able to visually see how much you ate contributes to how full you feel. So it's a matter of how much you believe you've eaten versus how much you've actually eaten. So a couple examples of this in the real world, where you're not eating tomato soup out of a magical bowl. If you're eating like family style, and there's like a bunch of plates in the middle and you're just kind of spooning stuff onto your plate, you may end up eating a lot more since you have no idea how much you're eating. You don't know how many plates you've had since you just keep kind of spooning individual stuff
When you
out.
say family style, are you talking about like you have like a what like a lot of smaller plates, or you have like a lot of tapas?
Imagine there's like
a lot of
it's not like you're at a restaurant and each person gets one entree to themselves. It's like
keep
there's a
filling your
group,
own
there's
food.
entrees in the middle, and you're each just kind of spooning stuff onto your own plate.
Okay.
So you have no idea how much you're really eating because you might have 3 plates, but maybe the first plate wasn't that big, or maybe the second plate was bigger. On the flip side, using smaller than normal plates might actually lead people to feel fuller than normal had they used regular plates.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this was even recommended for some trend or fad diets like years ago.
For weight loss?
Was that buy smaller plates? Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you put your food on smaller plates, the food looks bigger relatively.
Yeah.
You'll feel fuller. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Who knew that from our podcast? You get some health tips too while you're at it.
Hey,
You're learning something, little psychology, but
you gotta trick yourself.
Yeah, you gotta trick yourself. Psychology feels like it's all about manipulation.
Yeah, we literally call it manipulations when we're doing stuff to people. I had to explain that to my parents one day when I was saying, "Oh yeah, like when you are inducing an emotion, or when you're giving people a regular bowl versus a self-refilling bowl, that's a manipulation. That's literally what we call it, which sounds like devious, right?
But that's what it is, right? That just yeah. Well, our friendship is making a lot more sense now. Our friendship is making a lot more sense.
It's honestly putting a lot of things into context for me now after years of therapy.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking. Fancy restaurants. If you go to like a really fancy restaurant,
they do big plates.
They'll do big plates, and a small amount of food, right in the middle.
That's right.
And I was like, oh my God. I'm not sure if this is intentional or not. I don't know how many fancy restaurateurs have like read this study or are aware of this. But maybe unknowingly, when they do that, when you put a small amount of food on a huge plate, it makes the person think that they're not eating as much.
Yeah.
Thus, they'll remain hungrier and potentially order more food, right? So what are some applications of this? Getting those big bags of chips, right? Versus the snack-sized packs, like the lunch-sized bags.
Oh, no.
If you get the snack-sized bags, you'll probably end up eating less chips because you know exactly how much you're eating. Of course, that's more expensive. There are other factors to consider. But if you know, I had 3 of those snack-sized Dorito bags, that's going to make you stop more than if you just get the big bag and you're just eating half of it. That's probably 4 or 5 snack-sized bags.
So something people should know about myself and Chris, we like chips. I particularly love chips.
Oh, yeah.
And I know just even going to like places like Sprouts or Whole Foods, they always have like the organic versions of chips in their aisle. And I remember I pulled up one. I've been eating a lot more of these chips because I've been trying to have less empty calories and trick myself into eating these protein chips or whatever. And I remember having the adverse reaction when I pulled up one, which was like $5, which is the same as like a Kettle chips, right? The Kettle brand chips. I'm like, man,
great chip brand.
Yeah, great chip brand. But this fucking chips, I was like, what? There's not anything chips in here. How am I gonna? I love getting those big bags of chips, Chris.
I'm gonna have to eat 5 of these.
Yeah, I can't. I love getting those big bags. I get them every weekend, and it's not healthy for me at all. But I love getting a big bag of chips.
Yeah. I know. I feel that. That reminds me. There was, I think the first time, my first memory of like a joke on a TV show was an episode of Hey Arnold, where there was a character, I forget his name, but he was the fat bully.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The ice cream truck came by, and he was like, "Oh, like I'll take 1 fudge pop," and then the ice cream man was like, "Oh, did you know we now have fudge pops that have half as much fat?" And he was like, "Oh, that's amazing. I'll take 2." I was like, oh, that's funny. I was like, that's funny. I was so young, and I was like, I like that. I think that was my introduction to like humor. Yeah.
Oh, so is there a way around this then? Because like I don't know if I can ever, I don't know if I can stoop to this
So
level, Chris, of buying these small ass bags.
I know, and I think most people aren't going to do this. But the point being the theory behind it is that eating 3 2-ounce candy bars, like those snacks, fun size candy bars,
Yeah.
eating 3 2-ounce candy bars would probably make you feel fuller than eating 1 6-ounce candy bar, even though it's the exact same amount of candy. The fact that you're splitting them up into smaller portions kind of makes you feel fuller. That's the idea behind it. So this is just a side study that I remembered from learning about in undergrad. There was a study on people's perceptions of wine based on the price of the bottle. So basically, really, really brief. They had a bunch of bottles of wine. Everybody got the same exact wine, but half the people they told this is like an $80 bottle of wine, and the other half they told this is a $10 bottle of wine. It was the same wine that they all got. And then they asked people, hey, rate how much you liked the wine, how satisfied were you through it, what were your like favorite parts about it, and what do you think happened, right?
People just sort of made up whatever thing.
People that were told that the wine bottle cost $80 said like, wow, this really tastes amazing. I really like this wine. It's very yummy. I'm not a wine guy. And then the people that were told the wine cost $10 were like, oh, this wine was not that good. It was kind of cheap tasting. And so basically in both groups got the same exact bottle of wine. So when people think the wine bottle is expensive, they actually rate it and experience it as tasting better. So and that's not just like an illusion, like haha, gotcha. Like they actually enjoy the experience more, thinking it was more expensive. So if you can make a dish look better, people will think it tastes better, and not just like a trick. Like it'll taste better for them. It's kind of astounding.
This doesn't affect alcohol content, right? Because you could.
What do you mean?
And that. Oh, sorry. This only reflects satiation, right? This doesn't affect.
Oh, like how drunk you are?
How drunk you think you are.
Correct.
This is
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I hope this is another study.
Alcohol will probably just be what it is. You know, you can't trick yourself into being more sober. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's one less tip we could have given the listeners today.
But hey, you know what?
Yeah?
You know what? I like I like the innovation, and I think there's only one way to find out.
Bad content.
We need to invite undergrads into a study. Bring your friends.
Yeah, bring your
bottomless shot glass.
Let's go! Yes, that's the only way to do it.
Oh my god! Bottomless Long Island iced tea.
And you add at a time limit.
Yeah, 20 minutes. Those undergrads will, you know.
We got 20 minutes. Yeah, drink as much as you want, but that's the time limit.
Challenge accepted, Professor.
I can't think of any worse. I just want to do this study for fun. This sounds like a fun study. This is a fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, how easy would that be to recruit people? Hey, come to our study and have unlimited margaritas or whatever drink.
If you didn't know how hard, if you ever done research, you know how hard. The hardest part of research is finding people to do it. You know, this is the reason why some studies you have to give them money so you can get people to do it. Which is a whole different thing. Yeah, and even then, like it's so hard to like source participants. But like just saying like I'm not paying you anything, but hey, free drinks. I can't think of anything.
Hey, bottomless Long Island iced teas at Applebee's. Come on by.
I can't think of anything more compelling.
And it's just a group of undergrads all getting shit faced, and a little professor with his glasses. Interesting. just sitting there with his clipboard taking notes.
Yeah, I can imagine doing qualitative research afterwards, like follow-up questions, like, so on a scale of 1 to 5, how drunk are you?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm drunk.
The undergrads are now singing a throwback Backstreet Boys songs to karaoke. There is no karaoke at Applebee's. They are just taking it upon themselves.
All right.
So that's unfortunate. You never serenaded anybody with a song with your beautiful voice.
I don't have a I don't have a great
music.
I don't have
no musical talent.
Nope.
Okay,
not really. I will say this: regarding my musical talent, which I have very little, I love karaoke. As Chris, Chris and I spent a good amount of time in Chicago, going to this place called Harrigan's over in Lakeview East, and we had one friend in our improv group who sang really well, and that was pretty much it. The rest of us were just like just drunk enough to like go up if we felt brave. And I remember one time me and her, we decided to do a duet. We did fucking that Bradley Cooper Lady Gaga cover. Were you there? And then I remember
I don't know.
I forgot tell me something, girl. So I sang the Bradley Cooper part, not in that wonderful impression, but in my actual singing voice. And I remember singing it, and then as I'm singing it, I'm realizing as I'm singing it, I was like, oh, I don't have a good voice. I'm pretty drunk. And of course, fucking the Lady Gaga part comes up, and she sings beautiful. And nothing's worse than having your voice being compared to from going from night to day. It was pretty humiliating when you can see the level of talent on display. It's one thing for someone to sing a solo song and be really bad at it. It's another thing to have like a point of comparison what a good voice actually sounds like. And it was so evident to me, like once the song was over, people were coming up to her, as it happens in karaoke when you have someone who sings really well. Just other drunk people will come over and be like, "Oh, you did such a great job!" Shower this person with compliments, and meanwhile, I'm just like slinking over, trying to like hide my face. Oh man, that was so embarrassing. But that's
and everyone went up to her to compliment her, but not you.
She always got compliments. I mean, she knew it. She has such a great singing voice.
Anyways, have you ever wondered what music tastes like?
Like music taste? Oh, I see what you did there.
I was kind of interested in, how do other types of senses affect the other senses? So how do taste and perception relate to each other? So how does sound and taste relate to each other? I was kind of interested in that. Yeah. So I tested 7 different instruments. I surveyed a little over 500 people, and I want to know, what does the sound of an acoustic guitar taste like? What does the sound of drums taste like? What about a saxophone, a trumpet, a piano, a flute, and a violin? What do all of these instruments, their sounds, how do they taste differently from each other? I gave people these instructions. Quote, you will indicate what you think the sounds of different instruments taste like. When answering these questions, use your imagination and think how each instrument sounds and what you think the sounds would taste like. A little over 500 people took the survey. Again, we measured those 7 instruments: acoustic guitar, flute, piano, drums, saxophone, trumpet, violin. And so I gave them a subset of these instruments. And so for an example, one of the questions is, what does the sound of an acoustic guitar taste like? Take a moment and use your imagination. And then I had them rank from a scale of none at all to a great deal. How sweet does the sound of an acoustic guitar taste? How sour, how salty, how bitter, and how umami, which is another flavor, which is kind of savory or meaty. Think about like meat or like broth. And so now from this, we can get kind of a taste profile of each instrument. What does the sound of a flute taste like?
Sweet.
Sweet. A flute is very sweet tasting.
Interesting.
Yep. Dominantly sweet. Very little sour, umami, salty, and bitter.
Is it
super sweet?
Is 1.8 significant from 1.67? Because it feels very close, the rest of the measurements here, compared to sweet.
I didn't do no fucking significance testing, so...
Okay.
Let's go with yes.
Eyeballing it feels close, right? Eyeballing it feels close.
Yeah. Okay. With the p-value with eyeball tests, it's significant. All right. Now, what foods does the sound of a flute remind you of? Cake, lollipops, cotton candy, strawberries, fruit. And then we got some random ones like clams, mussels, and oysters. Yeah, for a flute.
Very different. Very, very different. Sweets
All
and
right,
seafood.
so that's
which is
that's
which is
flute.
which is, by the way, if you don't know this, Chris and I are opening a restaurant called Sweets and Seafood, where we serve.
Damn.
It's like chicken and waffles, but instead of chicken and waffles, you get crab and lemon and lemon cake.
You get oysters and pineapple.
Yeah.
That sounds like a weird
Pineapple scones.
aphrodisiac kind of place.
Oh, it's definitely like a fetish place. It's not unlike those TikToks.
Lollipops and cockles.
People are fucking for sure. 100% guaranteed. People are fucking.
Yeah.
It's our restaurant is the equivalent of those TikToks of people like purposely making bad food. What usually like thin women like grinding up like some sort of paste they make and a casserole dish with their fingernails, that serves the fetishes and disgusts everyone else. And that's what our restaurant is. Sweet and seafood.
It's a restaurant for the kink community.
We don't discriminate. That's the tagline. We don't discriminate.
Hey, you want clam cake? Yeah, we got you.
We got you covered.
You want the shrimp popsicle? We'll get that for you. We'll jumbo size it.
Delicious. Nothing more than I want to see at a sushi buffet is a roll, fucking sashimi, salmon sashimi, and next to it, fucking raspberry scones. Yum.
Oh yeah,
delicious. And next to that, brownies, and next to that, mussels.
Yep. Right next to that, cock-shaped brownies. All right, well, so that's a flute. So violin was the next sweetest. Similar flavor profile to a flute, but just a little less sweet.
Okay.
But again, sweet's the dominant flavor here, and the similar foods people put were berries, caramel drizzled on cheesecake, honey. It was specific.
That's very specific for multiple respondents.
I think this could fit into the kink community restaurant opening. Yeah. Tiramisu, tea pastries, and somebody put the smooth flow of syrup.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate here.
We don't. The only place where you can get chocolate covered lobster.
Hey, you can eat it off a plate or your partner. Hey, whatever you want.
Look, we might have a C rating, but we're gonna see you at a restaurant very soon. The only restaurant to brag about its C rating.
Yeah. Hey, C health rating. See you soon.
It's the fucking radio ad. We can put it in the podcast. Honey, are you? You know what I want? Something sweet, something from the sea, and I want to see you fucking naked. And you can only have that at Sweet and Seafood.
Baby, how do I eat them clams out of your asshole? I'm trying to do that out of Long John Silver's tonight.
It's the only place where I can get it in fucking raspberry jam. Bad content, psych. Episode 3, the only episode where people threw up at the end.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
People just click out now.
Yeah, this is if you look at the spike and where the huge drop, huge interest at the beginning of the bit, huge drop when you start introducing raspberry coming out of someone's asshole.
It's all vegan.
Yum.
Sweet. So that was a violin. A piano is sweet with notes of umami.
Okay.
Or that meaty, savory flavor.
I'm noticing a trend now. Yep. Flute, violin, piano. These were kind of like serenade-y kind of.
or like sort of like a dainty, like a fairy, prancing in the forest type of instruments,
Exactly.
aren't they?
Very very kind of flamboyant instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, similar foods for a piano were spaghetti with meat sauce,
Yeah.
caviar. Yeah.
Is this Filipino spaghetti? Jeez. Spaghetti with meat sauce. How did that come? Okay.
Spaghetti with meat sauce, the tomatoes, it's pretty sweet.
How did you get sweet and then these other associated ones that are not very sweet?
Yep.
Maybe
Caviar,
because
it's those notes of umami. So yeah,
Oh, I see.
caviar, chocolate, yogurt, maple glazed bacon, which is definitely sweet with that kind of meaty taste, and steak. Now we got acoustic guitar. An acoustic guitar is sweet with notes of umami or meaty, and it's salty. We have beef stew, apple pie, cheeseburger, natural peanut butter,
Oh.
smooth, not crunchy, they said, and popcorn.
Okay.
So I think for me,
this is interesting response. So varied.
Yeah.
At least the individual
beef stew
response.
fits in with the sweet, with kind of umami and salt flavor. When I think of an acoustic guitar, all I can think of is s'mores right now, but I know that's just because of the association with campfires.
Oh, now you have me thinking of that s'mores.
Yeah. So that's an acoustic guitar. Next, we have a saxophone.
Don't tell me sweet.
Saxophone.
Oh my gosh.
Sweet.
Okay, a little
And
different.
umami or meaty. It's a little different. It's a little more balanced out,
Yeah.
but it's still mostly sweet and meaty. Okay, so similar foods for a saxophone. The foods that the sounds of a saxophone reminded people of: barbecue grilled chicken, buttery garlic bread, trail mix, salted dark chocolate, and plantain chips.
Okay, I want to say that this is the most consistent flavor palette compared to the other ones, because at least the ones you listed so far, maybe with exception of buttery garlic bread, they kind of can be eaten in the same meal, I feel.
All right, next we have a trumpet. A trumpet.
Whoa.
What's the sound of a trumpet taste like? A trumpet is salty and pretty balanced. So salt is the dominant flavor, but otherwise it's pretty balanced from salty, sour, umami, sweet, and bitter.
Interesting. The first different one out of the bunch.
Yeah. Where salt was the first one, and I guess kind of imagine the sound of a trumpet. It's pretty. It's punchy. You know?
Yeah.
It's gonna hit your mouth with a force. Similar foods were pasta with seafood, nachos with cheese, chips and salsa, pot roast, and burger with fries.
Yum.
Which all to me may kind of make sense. Pasta with seafood's pretty balanced. Nachos and cheese, who doesn't love that? Chips and salsa. It's all kind of a fair balance of many flavors.
And you can have all these entrees at your local cheesecake factory. You can have this literally in one city.
True. Yeah. And I think finally, this is the last one. We have drums. So drums were umami, meaty, and salty. Those are the two dominant flavors here.
Okay.
And for the similar foods, we have a tough old steak.
I don't. Is that
Someone
good?
said that.
Yeah, is that
Someone
good?
said I don't think it's good. I don't think that's good. You could probably get it at Cheesecake Factory, though. Yeah, I'll have the tough old steak.
Extra A1 sauce, please.
Yeah, extra well done.
Extra well done.
A tough old steak, turkey, chicken gravy, eggs, hot dogs, potatoes, and salted chips and peanuts.
This feels more consistent in terms of maybe because umami and salty are pair very well together.
They are. A lot of foods are salty and meaty.
Yeah.
Here's a kind of a breakdown of all of the instruments. What do all of the sounds of instruments taste like? So a flute is sweet. A violin is also sweet. A piano is sweet with notes of umami. An acoustic guitar is sweet with notes of umami and salt. A saxophone is sweet and umami. A trumpet is salty and balanced. And drums are umami, meaty, and salty.
Interesting. So not all of them were like sour, bitter. Yeah, sour and bitter.
Yep. Yeah, none of them had sour and bitter as the kind of dominant flavors, but some were more sour and bitter than others.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if you.
I'm guessing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to say. I wonder if you would even get that, even if you put a whole array of instruments. If you would still get that. If you were to get sour
I don't know.
bitter, I don't know if you would get that with instrument. I wonder if. Oh, I don't know what conclusion you're gonna make. I don't want to speak for you. Just based on these results, it seems like most instruments may swing more sweet and savory. It seems like.
It seems like that. Yeah. So it seems like the kind of more. I'm not sure what musical term you would use to describe this, but yeah, kind of like you were saying, a little more like dainty, a little more flowery or flamboyant. Flute, violin, and piano, they're much more sweet. Whereas kind of trumpet or other horns and drums are more like meaty and salty. And I'm guessing we didn't find any instruments that are really bitter or really sour because generally humans don't like these tastes. Just something being super bitter and super sour. We like them in certain things, certain doses. But if you've ever had like 100% like natural like cranberry juice, like it's terrible. It's super bitter. So I'm guessing just because we don't play instruments that don't sound nice. So the only instruments that have withstood the test of time and are still being performed and practiced today are instruments that are going to sound nice to us. And bitter and sour are kind of unpleasant flavors. So those will kind of be more passive flavors in any instrument taste profile we see.
We'll see all of you at Sweet and Seafood grand opening.
Yes.
Sweet and Seafood. See you there.